it's kind of funny is like I am not the most competitive person where people are kind of shocked when I say that. Like I did not get into sport because I want to win at everything I do. If I have knowledge, I'm generally pretty open about telling my teammates about it, even sometimes telling my competitors about it because I don't want to beat them when they're at their worst. I want to beat them when they're at their best. I always wanted to see how good I could be. And so that's what's driven me the entire time. And what are my limits? What are my capabilities? That's also why later in my bobsled career, I continued to compete as a mom because I wanted to see what was possible.
Welcome to Athlete Actually, the women's sports podcast where we ask the questions athletes actually want to answer. I'm Elizabeth Montevan, a professional water skier and marketing strategist, and this show is produced by Parity, a women's sports marketing and sponsorship consultancy. Welcome to today's episode of Athlete Actually. I'm your host, Elizabeth Montevan, and today I'm joined by Elana Meyers Taylor, Olympic gold medalist, 6-time Olympic medalist, and the most decorated Black Winter Olympian of all time. At the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Games, Elana captured her long-awaited first Olympic gold in the women's monobob, cementing one of the most accomplished careers in Winter Olympic history and tying speed skater Bonnie Blair for the most Winter Olympic medals ever won by an American woman. But Elana's legacy extends far beyond a single race. Across 5 Olympic Games, she's helped redefine what longevity, leadership, and excellence can look like in elite sport, becoming one of the defining athletes in bobsled over the last decade. And alongside that career, she's also become a powerful advocate and mother, raising her 2 sons, Nico and Noah, while competing on the world stage and supporting families impacted by disability, deafness, and Down syndrome. Known for her honesty and ability to keep pushing her sport forward, Elana's story is about so much more than medals. It's about evolution, identity, and building a life alongside elite performance. This season of Athlete Actually is presented by DNA Vibe. DNA Vibe is a new category of wearable regenerative technology designed to support the body's natural recovery processes, trusted by athletes, trainers, and high performers who are redefining what strength, recovery, and longevity look like. DNA Vibe's patented wearable devices combine non-thermal red and near-infrared light, micromagnetic signaling, and microvibration to work in harmony with the body's natural processes to support circulation, comfort, and overall well-being, helping you move better, recover smarter, and stay in the game. If you're training hard or simply want to feel and perform your best, you can learn more at dnavibe.com/recovery. Before we jump into this episode, I want to start with On Our Radar, one thing from the world of women's sports that's caught our attention. Here's the headline. The Professional Women's Hockey League is expanding again, adding 4 new franchises in Detroit, Hamilton, Las Vegas, and San Jose for the 2026 to 2027 season. The context? Well, what's wild about this is how fast this growth is happening. The PWHL launched with 6 teams in 2024, added Seattle and Vancouver just last year, and is now already scaling up to 12 total franchises. And the momentum behind it is very real. The league recently surpassed 1 million fans in attendance in a single season for the first time. What's especially interesting about these expansion markets is that they're not all traditional women's hockey strongholds. The PWHL is intentionally betting on emerging sports cities like Las Vegas and San Jose alongside legacy hockey markets like Detroit and Hamilton. And in doing so, it's proving women's sports growth isn't limited to one type of fan or one region. My takeaway, expansion used to be something women's leagues talked about as a future possibility. Now it's happening in real time and at a pace that's starting to reshape the entire professional sports landscape. So that is what's on our radar, and this is Elana Meyers Taylor. Elana, thank you so much for joining us. You have been all over after Milano Cortina. You've been on every TV show and talk show that you can possibly imagine. Now you're finally on my show. It's such an honor to have you here.
It's great to be here. Great to talk to you.
So tell me, I know you've been in many cities doing many events, and finally getting the recognition you deserve after a very long and goated career. But what else have you been up to lately?
It's full go parenting. So, it never stops. And even trying to figure out like childcare, my kids have been traveling with us, and every single week we've been to 2 to 3 stops. sometimes four, which means 2 to 3 cities. So it's been pretty jam packed. But full go parenting, started back training, but that's been interesting. You don't really think the toll of Olympic Games and like the 4 years really takes on your body. So starting back slowly, but also recognizing like I've got to do some things with my body to get it back to where I need it to be before we can even really get into the most intense training that we'd want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing that you get to take your kids with you to these events. I think it's so important for kids to see their mom in their full element. And you have many elements that you thrive in, right? You are so multifaceted. And so I love that your kids get to join you and see you in all your glory like that. But you're so right. Training for a big event, especially when it's a cycle type of event, right? Like
Mhm.
an Olympics where it's every 4 years, or in some sports, world championships happens every other year, right? You really don't talk about how hard that is on the body, and then the come down from that event, and then the re-ramp back up. So when you say you're training again, does that mean we have more competitions like on the horizon?
I hope so. You never know what it's exactly going to look like. And I recognize, I'm 41 years old, so it's got to look a little different than it has in the past. But unfortunately, our sport doesn't really allow it to look different. It's like either full World Cup circuit because of my rank or bust,
Yeah.
which isn't really realistic anymore. Being over in Europe for 4 to 6 months out of the year with these two little ones, I don't know how realistic that is anymore. So I have to really sit and talk with my team and see what that looks like, because we have to do things differently. Like being as old as I am with the kids and everything like that, like I can't do every single race, every single training run, all this stuff anymore. So it's just gonna be more of a matter of what we can make the puzzle look like, and maybe the puzzle pieces don't work this time around, and I'm okay with that as well. But we'll see what happens.
But when you bring up the age component, I think with that for any athlete comes wisdom and all the experience that you have. And so I'm sure you will make the right decision for you and your career and your family because you have so much experience under your belt. And, leaning into that experience a little bit, I would really love to ask you our question on the show. What is your story that no one's ever asked you about?
Yeah. Well, my son Noah has decided to join us. He really wants to show you his Paw Patrol.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, he's got a new Paw Patrol. He's really
Mm,
excited. But my athlete story is a little different than most. It's kind of funny. It's like I am not the most competitive person where people are kind of shocked when I say that. Like I did not get into sport because like I want to win at everything I do. I want to win like getting in the car when we were little kids and get the front seat and all that kind of stuff. Like I never did any of those traditional stories you hear. Like I don't care who wins at the card game. Like of course I always want to win, but not the same competitiveness or anything like that. For me, sport has always been about trying to find out my best, trying to be the best I can. And in a sense, I guess it's a little bit of my own like little perfectionism. That I always wanted to see how good I could be. And so that's what's driven me the entire time. And what are my limits? What are my capabilities? And I think that's also why later my bobsled career I continued to compete as a mom because I wanted to see what was possible for myself. So yes, I get down at the bottom of a race and it's really great to win. And then winning a gold medal is amazing too. But at the end of the day, for me, it's always been about how I would be able to perform and what that looks like to me.
So, what I would love to know from you, you saying that you're not the most competitive person, right? But you are obviously the elite of the elite. How does that maybe not necessarily competitive fire is what's driving you? How does that impact your dynamic you have with your teammates and the people that you train with?
Yeah, so I've actually gotten into trouble with this sometimes in coaching circles before because I am generally a person who believes like what's this saying, a rising tide lift all boats.
Yeah.
So I'm not like if I have knowledge, if I have information, I'm generally pretty open about telling my teammates about it, even sometimes telling my competitors about it because I don't want to beat them when they're at their worst. I want to beat them when they're at their best. So if I tell them something and it ends up working for them, if I tell them a specific line in the bobsled track and it ends up working for them and they end up beating me, then that's my fault. Like I didn't do what I needed to do on the track. Like it's not yes, kudos to them and their execution, but at the end of the day, like I had just as amount of knowledge as they did and I didn't execute. And so that's kind of how it's been with me and I've always been tried to be supportive because for me one of the really important things about bobsled in the US and globally has been the growth of the game.
Mhm.
And I believe if everybody's competing better, then the game's going to continue to grow globally and the game's going to continue to grow in the US and I want the US in particular to be competitive long after I'm gone. So it's always been important for me to continue to support in any way I can and continue to make sure the team is as strong as I can, even if sometimes coaches get annoyed with me for helping quote unquote the competition.
I really admire that in you. I also am an athlete who is a big believer in if I have something that can help you get better, let me know. If you want my numbers, I'll give you my numbers because if you're better than me on my numbers, I'm going to learn something from that. So I
Right.
align with you and I agree. I definitely have had people and coaches say to me, could you please be a little more competitive? Can you actually want to beat these other women?
Yeah.
But
Right.
I want a strong women's field because it brings out the best in me and it makes all of us better. Now,
Yeah.
on that note of growing the game, right? And bobsled really getting this spotlight moment because of you coming out of the 2026 Olympics. I'll admit it, it's a niche sport. I don't know the most about it, but I come from a niche sport, so I know what it's like to be an athlete who's super passionate about something that's niche. What would you like to see for the future of bobsled and any other winter sliding sports?
Well, I'd love to have it gain more notoriety, gain more recognition and stuff like that. I'd love to have it more of a center stage, have it have broadcast deals and big broadcast deals. I mean, it does have small broadcast deals, but I'd love to be able to see it on a ESPN, on a NBC, on a Saturday or Sunday, or those races and those profile things. But I think we have to grow a lot within the sport. I think the sport has to change. I mean, I'm an athlete within the sport, and I'll be honest with you, like I don't watch the full races a lot of times. Part of it's because I'm continually training and I've got other things going on, but also part of it is because like it's hard as a layperson if you're not familiar with bobsled. Like the top 10 sleds, especially, look very similar. Like it's great. We're all very competitive, but if you can't tell the difference, if there's not enough excitement about it, like it's going to be hard to follow. So
Mhm.
we have to continue to innovate within the sport and change some things to make it more appealing, to make it have somebody, to make it feel like something somebody wants to watch. And like I said, I think people are watching, which is great, but I think we could be doing more for sport to not only highlight the sport itself, but also highlight the athletes. And maybe that means like getting creative with the format. Maybe it means having a female pilot and a male brakeman and a male pilot and a female brakeman, or mixed teams, or even mixing nations. Or maybe we're having a mixed competition where US combines one US sled combined with one German sled, and we'll see the fastest combined team and things like that. But we've got to be more creative in order for the sport to get the eyeballs it deserves.
Yeah. And again, I'm in a very similar boat to you in that our sport is not fun to watch for long periods of time, but it's highly technical. It's very interesting once you finally understand it. But we're also in a
Mhm.
situation where we need to really kind of reinvent the wheel here and think about how can we change this format to make it more engaging for others. What advice would you give to young athletes coming up through bobsled right now and knowing that, okay, finally there's a good amount of spotlight on bobsled and it's time to take it to the next level? What advice would you give to young athletes who want to grow their brand or their career in a niche winter sport?
I think you have to, number one, find your brand, like discover what your brand is. Is like long ago, like I fortunately I have a really good team around me, but also long ago I knew kind of what my brand was. It's continued to evolve and change, but I knew there was going to be like certain things that were not going to be for me. That there were certain things like some of the more, I don't know how to say this politically, but like some of the more revealing
Mhm.
side that women athletes tend to do. Some of the more, I don't even know what the terminology is, but some of the more media attention around the way they look and certain things like that. Like I'm the type of an athlete like most days, you're gonna be lucky if I brush my hair. Like one of those kind of things. Like so I'm not gonna be big into fashion brands. Although later in my life I love fashion. I loved watching the Met Gala and seeing like the athletes and all that kind of stuff like that. So I love that kind of stuff. But I knew that wasn't my brand. I
Mhm.
knew I wasn't gonna appeal to in the Olympic side of things, a Ralph Lauren, a Skims, all this kind of stuff. This just doesn't work for me. But I knew like especially later in life, like when I had my kids, is like I was gonna appeal to the kinds of brands that attract moms. So I knew that was my brand specifically. So that's what I focused on. Is that's what I focused on, making sure I was appealing to those companies who wanted to target a demographic that matched with my particular brand. And that's what I would suggest any athlete do. And I've seen athletes get it terribly wrong, especially within these niche winter sports, because we have to be more than athletes. Like it's not enough to just win. You have to be a brand. And I've seen athletes do it terribly wrong, where they think they're going to be one thing, where they think they're going to appeal to one thing. And it's just complete failure because it's not authentic. It's not themselves. So it's important that you find your brand, but it's also important that you find your authentic brand and work from there.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. And you're right. There's a lot of athletes who chase what they think they're supposed to be in building their
Mhm.
brand. And usually it's younger athletes, right? Again, experience is so important in sport. But when you have that right team around you that can help you see the best version of you and build a brand around that, that is just so important. I read a quote the other day that was something like, if you want to beat everybody, it's really difficult. But if you focus on being the only you, nobody can win
Mhm.
that game. And I think you and your brand, you've done a phenomenal job of being the only you. There's only one Elana Meyers Taylor, and everybody knows that.
Thanks. And also the thing I would say is like you have to recognize is like you're not going to be everybody's not going to like you. You're not going to appeal to everybody, and that's okay. I think sometimes, especially as female athletes, we try to get everybody to like us, but there's just certain, and it's like you'll post something online, and if you're on the online space, and a lot of athletes, that's how they are making their money is through TikTok, it's through Instagram and stuff like that. So if you're on the online space long enough, like you'll have those posts that for some reason you don't know why they just get tons and tons of hate comments, and it'll be like a completely like nothing even salacious or nothing like that. It'll just be you sitting in front of a garden with sunflower, and you'll be like, "Oh, isn't it a beautiful day?" And then all of a sudden, you'll have all these comments. How dare you say it's a beautiful day? Or how dare you sit next to sunflowers? Like, do you know how sunflowers grow? And all kinds of stuff. Like, so just recognizing that you're not gonna please everybody, but
Mhm.
as long as you're out there, like creating a brand and creating content and all the stuff that you can be proud of at the end of the day, then you could walk away and say, hey, I'm doing the best I can to promote myself, but also to live with and be live with and show the values that I actually stand for.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. I feel like an example of the unfortunate side of social media for athletes. We have an athlete in the community who she's pregnant and she posted something about the training that she's doing while she's pregnant. And somebody actually commented that they hoped she had a fatal miscarriage out of the
Jeez.
blue for no reason. And she
Yeah.
reported it. And Meta found that it did not violate their community standards, which is unbelievable and egregious. And I don't understand how.
Yeah.
But it really goes to show you have to have some kind of barrier or way to filter out how much you let those comments affect you, because that's a
Yeah.
devastating type of comment. But at the same time, social media is a great way to connect with your fan base, right? And really fill your
Hmm.
cup up. Do you find that in bobsled, the fan base is very active on social?
Yes, and the fans who love bobsled, like, super love bobsled, and that's just kinda cool, and it's the same kinda with me, it's like the people who know me and follow my story, it's like, they know every statistic even more than I do. And so that's what's cool. It's great when you have passionate fans and also fans who will support you. And I feel like the more you get to know bobsled athletes, the more you're on their team regardless of whether they win or lose. And because you understand the intricacies of the sport, you understand that it's hey, it's on ice. Like anything can happen when it's
Right.
on ice. Like ice is slippery. So when you understand the intricacies and and you meet the athletes and understand that, like those people who are really passionate about it, really fans, they're also some of the best fans when you do have those bad races or you do have those bad moments because they understand the ins and outs of sport and know that it's hard, and we're all out here trying to figure it out together.
Yeah, and those are the voices as athletes we need to let be, loudest when we're in those moments where maybe we're not at our best. Those are the fans we need to let fill our cup. Now, you've already mentioned it, how much motherhood has become a part of your brand, and you have a very unique story with your two children. I would love to hear from you what it's like sharing so much of that side of your personal life while being an athlete and very much in the spotlight. This episode of Athlete Actually is supported by Sport Certified Powered by iHerb, a collection of supplements rigorously tested for quality, purity, and performance. For athletes, what you put in your body matters. Sport Certified Powered by iHerb products are tested to meet strict standards, giving you confidence that what's on the label is what's in the bottle. From protein and hydration to essential vitamins and recovery support, their lineup is built for active lifestyles. You can explore the full Sport Certified collection at sportcertified.com.
Well, first of all, if you're thinking about having children for content or for your brand, like that's not a good reason to have children. So it's been part of my brand, but most of it has really been trying to tell our story in an authentic way, trying to tell our story about what it's like to raise children with disabilities and how what we face on a daily basis is different than most families. And also like what we face in as far of a political sense or as a global sense of like some of the discrimination we face or some of the different challenges we face, like having access to healthcare and the different challenges of like what it's like to be a family who has spent a lot of time in a hospital or has spent time in the NICU. So I really try to tell those stories as well. And that's kind of where it all started. It just kind of started like in some kind of part, like being in the NICU and wanting to find that community and then realizing like there aren't necessarily, and granted, it's grown quite a bit, but at the time, there weren't a lot of people who look like my family online. There weren't a lot of Black families with kids with Down syndrome, like sharing their stories and stuff like that. And when we got Nico's diagnosis, Nico, my older son, we got his Down syndrome diagnosis. We were so desperate to find other families that look like ours, and it was few and far between. Like I said, now it's grown tremendously, and like you have those people you can connect with online and share their stories and stuff like that. But really, that's really how it started. And then you know, add bobsled into it, and it's kind of how my brand kind of grew into this, my motherhood and stuff like that. And it's been really fun to share our experience, but also like lately it's gotten a little bit more difficult because Noah, my younger son, his moment was so viral at the games. Now it's at the point where you go to grocery store and people recognize him, or when we're out in public, people recognize him, which is a little bit concerning because as a parent, you want to make sure he's safe as well. And
Of
so
course.
you see a lot of online forums about, child privacy and protecting them online and stuff like that. And our approach has really been, we really wanted to share the story about disability. So we've had a lot of content featuring our children, but it is like a minefield. You really have to be careful, especially like I said, he had that viral moment. You want to make sure that even though people are excited and everybody's been really excited to see us and meet him and everything like that, but you have to keep their safety in mind too. So there's limits even to the motherhood brand side of things. Like now my content is shifting towards my experience as a mother and less of their experience, especially as they grow as well.
Yeah, and I imagine there's really no playbook on how to navigate all of this, all these layers combined, right? And I'm sure it feels like a lot of pressure as a mother to do all the things and want to do it in a way where people perceive it as being correct. Now, what I would love to know from you, because of just how interesting your background is and the experience you've had raising children with disabilities, has this changed how you see the Paralympic movement at all?
Well, it's kind of funny. My husband was coaching Paralympic athletes prior to us having Nico and us having our children. And I always had this sense as a mother that even though I didn't grow up with a lot of disabled people in my life, like I knew deaf people and I knew other disabled people, like I always had this sense that my husband had such a connection with the disability community because we were going to be impacted by it one way or another. So I always had a sense that maybe one of my children would be disabled. I didn't know that both of them would, but also like having that sense, it kind of always gave me a different outlook on the Paralympics and on disability in general. I think it's been a privilege to be able to train with Paralympic athletes because I think they're some of the hardest working athletes in the world. But also now understanding like some of the off the field of play stuff they have to go through, understanding what it looks like for Medicaid and understanding what it looks like to try and find all these specialists and understanding all those things. Like you have a even greater appreciation. Like I've always appreciated what they've been able to do and always loved to train with them. But now like it's a whole new meaning because my kids could someday be Paralympians too. And, for that too, you're like, I've always appreciated, the recent movements in pay equity among the Paralympics and Olympics, but now even more so is like now, hey, my kids, if they do become Paralympians, like, and I'm also one of those parents, like I want my kids to be involved in sport, but at the end of the day, Paralympics or Olympics are never really the goal. It's just to be active.
Mhm.
But the biggest thing is like now, if my kids do become Paralympics, it is kind of reassuring to know that they'll have the same opportunity of prize money as we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And more people like you who are using your platform to shine a light on the Paralympic movement and how we can better be there and represent those athletes. It's so you're setting such a good example for your children, not just in athletic capacity, but also for representation for all types of differences. I hope everybody goes and watches this back on video on YouTube because this is the better version.
This is incredible.
I know you
Like
have your
kids.
headphones in, but I think they know we're talking about them. Like they just know.
Yes. Yes, yes. It's funny, like, that's the other thing about, like, doing this as a mom and everything. The kids seem to know whenever you are in your most important phone calls or most important meetings or whatever, because that's like like the youngest Noah, he was over there playing for the longest time, eating his. We made blueberry muffins together this morning, so he's over there eating his muffins, playing, watching Paw Patrol, and then as soon as I open the camera or open the computer, he's like, "Run, run, run over there! It's got to be on." It's like I was the least important person all morning, and now all of a sudden, like this is
Right, when demand
so
goes
it's
up,
funny,
demand goes up.
right?
You know what? This is interesting to me, actually. You are doing such an incredible job of juggling and balancing all of the things and making it look effortless. How has motherhood impacted your ability to focus in the moment, in the heat of battle of sport?
Yeah, the biggest thing is like I know that while I'm there, that's what I get the opportunity to focus on. Like I have those moments where I'm like the kids are taken care of. I can just focus on what I need to do. And so much of my life outside of sport is focused on thinking about doctor's appointments or camp schedules or whatever they need to do, what they're going to eat, bedtimes, all this kind of stuff. That when I'm in sport, like that's my opportunity to just solely focus on what I need to do. And I don't get much time, but I get those couple hours a day. And now during the summers when I'm training, like that's my time to focus on what I truly love to do. So not only has it given me that kind of focus to make sure like during that time I'm only solely focused on that, but also it's given me a whole new perspective in that like hey, I've got so much other stuff going on. I need to really enjoy this and really take full advantage of this time that I am out there enjoying loving what I get to do or loving the challenge of being an athlete and all that kind of stuff because so much of my life outside of it is focused on so many different directions that it just narrows your focus when you're able to do that one thing and that one thing that you love more than anything.
Yeah.
Not more than anything, not more than your kids, obviously, but I love doing more than anything. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And, something we talk about a lot internally at Parity is all those athletic skills that translate to great professional skills in various types of workplaces. And I think you just personify that yet again. Now, when I want to talk a little bit about Milano Cortina 2026, you come home back to the US. You are the most decorated Black Winter Olympian of all time. This is such a special, monumental moment. In the current climate of everything in this country, what was that experience like for you representing the US and achieving something like that that means so much?
Well, I think the great thing about these past games is the reception I got really coming back was people were just grateful to have something to take their mind off of how hard things are now, take their mind off of all the things that are challenging. I mean, even me, like I open up my phone and there's 1,000 different news articles about all the stuff that's going wrong in the world. And like there's just times where like, okay, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and I just opened the apps, but now I'm done with the internet for today because I just can't do this. Like it's so many people out there are having such a hard time right now. Like the Olympics really felt like a moment where people could take a breath and take their mind off of things. So it's escapism in some form, but also it's also this unifying moment because you have so many people within Team USA that made pretty public statements and that were really trying to do everything they can to support the American people and to really represent the American people,
Mhm.
and not necessarily like what's going on with the government or anything like that. Like I really felt unifying in that kind of sense.
That makes me really happy to hear that because obviously you deserve that in this moment, in this very special moment in your career. Do you feel like you were able to connect with the American people after this games?
Well, definitely. It's kind of crazy. Like, I think the reception to my win in particular, like, especially, people seeing me signing with the boys at the bottom of the track and those kind of things is like, I didn't see the full NBC package and what it really looked like. I didn't know all the ins and outs. But once I saw, like, the NBC sent me the full package, I'm extremely grateful they did that because once I saw how it was put together and I was like, I'm crying too. And it made me understand, like, the reception that people had to me. Like, people would literally coming up to me, like, even coming back to the airport and start crying and say, "Oh, I loved your story. I loved your family." And I didn't really get it because I was like, I just won a bobsled race. But then when I saw how it was all put together, like it really made sense to me and it really like was a different thing and it meant more than just winning a gold medal, which was really cool. So the reception for me personally has been great, but also just knowing like how much that moment meant to so many of the communities that I represent. Like it meant so much to the deaf community. It meant so much to the Down syndrome community. It meant so much to moms and moms in particular with kids with disabilities too. So like the reception has been great, and I think as a country we still have a lot of things to work on, but I think the Olympics kind of gave us a sense that it's bigger than that. Like it is still about trying to make this place the best we can, and that collectively that we have the ability to do it.
Sport is so powerful like that. And
Mhm.
obviously that's why we all love it, right? Is, beyond where you're from, beyond what language you speak, beyond what you look like at the end of the day, if we all understand whatever the sport at hand is, that's what brings us together. And you certainly were one of the most shining lights of this games in bringing our country together. And that was so powerful to watch. And yes, my husband and I were sobbing watching you and your son. It was so powerful and very well deserved. Well, Elana, I think I want to bring it to our segment called The Last Lap, which is our sports trivia segment. So this is such an easy one for you especially, but if you, Elana Meyers Taylor, were the answer to a sports trivia question, in your perfect world, what would you like that sports trivia question to be?
I would like, and it's funny because people always, when they intro me, they ask me if they could say this. I would like the question to actually be, who is the oldest Winter Olympian to win a gold medal in an individual event, like
Ooh,
across the world? And that is
ooh,
me.
that is a badass one to boot.
Yeah. And what's funny is because the oldest was actually a male. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, which is embarrassing. But he had won at the age of 40 gold medal like a couple days before me. So literally, he had the record for a couple Austrian male. He had the record for a couple days, and then I broke it, which is just chef's kiss,
You know what? Never apologize for breaking a record, right?
right? No, no, sorry, dude. He could be the. I think he might be the oldest man, which is funny.
We'll
The
let him,
oldest
yeah.
man to win an individual
We'll
gold
let him
medal at
have
a
that.
Winter
That's
Olympics,
fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he can have that. Oh my gosh. Alana, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Give us, 30 seconds on what you've got coming on the horizon.
So more events. I'm starting my speaking engagement career. I'm going to do some motivational and public speaking and different things like that. So really looking forward to kicking that off. And, there's always been the way I've made money to support my bobsled career, but now I'm going to be doing it a little bit more actively, really working on it and doing it more professionally. So I'm excited to get that going and excited for what lies ahead. And I guess the next best thing for us, though, is the Ski weekend. I'm excited to go with Flavor Flav down to Vegas and enjoy the Ski weekend, celebrating all the female Olympians and Paralympians from this past games.
Oh, I'm so glad you're going to be attending that. I'm going to be glued to your Instagram stories. And for anybody else who wants to join me in that, what is your Instagram handle?
Elana Meyers Taylor, ELANAMEYERS TAYLOR.
Yep, that's our girl, Elana Meyers Taylor. Everybody follow her on Instagram. Alana, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It was just an honor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Noah appreciates it too.
Bye, Noah.
Bye. Just saying bye. Say bye.
Thanks for listening to Athlete Actually. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, rate, and share with someone who should be part of the conversation. To learn more about how brands are partnering with pro women athletes, visit ParityNow.com.